Hello everyone, and welcome to a completely impromptu and probably totally ridiculous stream about a movie you may never have seen or heard of before, but which I watched the other day, and I've got something to say. How's that for an intro to a review? Let me turn up some appropriate music here. There we go. Ah, it's nice relaxing music. How's that? I think that should be alright. I'm going to take my headphones off because I'm not actually listening to anything here. So, Fractured. As I am wont to do from time to time, when a Sunday rolls around, I watch a movie. I just picked out something random on Netflix the other day. Had no idea what it was, had never heard of it before. The only thing I knew about it was the title and the thumbnail, and I decided to dive right in. Although the title alone kind of gave me a hint as to what I was about to see. And that's the spoiler warning I will give right now. I am just going to talk about this movie from stem to stern and then give you my pitch for a ridiculous sequel idea. So if you have any interest in seeing this movie and don't want it spoiled for you, even though I think anyone with a pulse will figure out the big twist within the first 5 minutes of the movie, stop listening now, go watch the movie, come back to this. But if you don't care, or if you've seen the movie, then by all means, continue. First, a couple of hellos before I get into the meat of this. Kiverdam, Noah Asensio, Mario Dreams, Bridget, Johnny Blaze, Brittany Holland, Spoonie the Rebel. Good afternoon to you all. Okay, so Fractured, 2019, 3-year-old film, stars Sam Worthington, Lily Rabe, I might be getting that wrong, Lucy Capri, are the main three characters in it. And then even Stephen Tobolowsky is in it. You might remember Stephen Tobolowsky from Groundhog Day and a zillion other movies the guy has been in because he's just character actor extraordinaire. Or Sneakers. Remember Sneakers? My voice is my passport. Verify me. That one? That's him. He's been around forever. But yes, 2019, directed by Brad Anderson. And I think it was a Netflix exclusive. I'm not sure. Probably was. But yeah. So what is this movie about? Well, I don't know. Fractured. Conjures to mind a few things. Well, the narrative will have it refer to a broken bone, but it's obviously not that. So I've got the Netflix description in front of me. I'm going to use it as a guidepost as I go along in my review. In general terms, it's a take up some time on a weekend kind of movie. You know, I didn't find too many surprises. There weren't. I mean, the twist is so easy to spot right in the first, like I said, 5 minutes. The actual details are revealed at the very end, of course. So anyway, let's just get into it. Ray Monroe is driving home with his wife Joanne and his daughter Perry after a Thanksgiving visit to Joanne's parents. Oh, okay. Well, that might already ruin my sequel idea. I was under the impression they were on their way to Thanksgiving, not that they were back home from Thanksgiving. Oh, that there was a wrench in the whole thing. Well, shucks. My understanding of the plot is that they were headed to Thanksgiving. Well, for the sake of argument, I'm just going to pretend that that's actually what was going on, just for fun, just 'cause. That's how well the movie kind of, I guess, broadcast that fact to me. Okay. Anyway, I'm going to pretend they're on their way to Thanksgiving, because that was my understanding. Ray and Joanne argue about the state of their relationship. In the car, Perry's music. Their daughter's name is Periwinkle. They call her Perry. Very cute. Perry's music device, it's like a MP3 player or something, stops working due to dead batteries, and Ray tells her that he will buy some for her at the next gas station. Actually, they say rest stop in the movie. I'm just correcting Wikipedia now. Soon, Perry says she needs to use a restroom, so they take a break at a gas station. Yes. The cashier tells Ray that they only take cash, so Ray skips the batteries, but in addition to a Coke for Joanne and a coffee for himself, nevertheless buys 2 small bottles of liquor. Did he? I must have missed that part. Okay, after returning to the car, he lies to Joanne, saying the store didn't have batteries. Is that what happened? I was watching this movie, and I'm like, okay, I didn't even register. And here's the thing. If it did happen that way, it doesn't come up again in the movie. The bottles of liquor? Nothing. Okay. Perry cannot find her compact mirror all of a sudden, so Joanne goes to check the restroom, and Ray searches the back seat. Now here's the scene that really worked for me. Of everything else in this movie, this one scene was the best scene in the whole movie. It created immediate tension, had some great acting by the child actor and the animal. Because while Ray is distracted, Perry starts to wander towards a deserted construction site behind the gas station because of a balloon stuck on a rebar. She sees a sort of shiny balloon. It's like, ooh, shiny, starts walking towards it. She is menaced by a stray dog. A stray dog that I gotta say, as an animal actor is concerned, did an amazing job of being a scary, intimidating animal. She is menaced by a stray dog and starts backing towards an exposed pit. Ray throws a rock to scare the dog, but it causes Perry to fall in the hole. Ray, aiming to grab her, falls in as well and hits his head. Now, that's a very brief description of a very well-done scene. It's very tense. The dog is very menacing. The tension's really high. You see the girl backing up towards the edge of this pit. The dad doesn't notice her at first. And, yeah, the dog looks like he's about to, like, rip her face off. It's great. It's the best scene in the whole movie, and it really sells me on wanting to watch more until we get to the point where I figure out what's going on immediately, and then it all kind of goes downhill from there. So Ray jumps in to try to catch his daughter, as she's falling, which is kind of ridiculous because she's already falling, but he dives in to try to save her. Anyway, they both fall. She lands on her back. He hits his head. He comes around in a daze and to a distressed Joanne, who has climbed down and is checking Perry for injuries. After his head clears, he picks Perry up and decides to have her injured arm seen to at a hospital they passed a few miles back. Okay, well, in the process of him standing up and clearing his head, there's a very intentional shot of the back of his head, and everything's kind of fuzzy around the edges of the frame, and then he turns around and opens his eyes. And at that moment, I knew everything after this moment is some kind of dream, isn't it? Some kind of dream, some kind of fantasy, some kind of delusion, in some way, shape, or form, everything after this point. It just immediately told me. The title and that one shot told me everything I needed to know about the rest of the movie. But there you go. Anyway, he picks up his daughter and he and his wife get into the car and they drive off to the hospital. During the admissions process, the couple are asked if they would be willing for Perry to be placed on the organ donor register, which they decline. Yeah, there's this very creepy vibe at the hospital where you see all these guys carrying these organ donor bins back and forth, and everybody in the hospital is acting very robotic and very cold and very strange, right? And yeah, she's there because of a possibly sprained or broken arm, and they start asking them all these questions for insurance purposes of like, what's your blood type? And, you know, would you like to be an organ donor? This little girl who just has a hurt arm. It's very disturbing. And the father, Ray, is very impatient. He just wants his daughter to be seen to. You know, and it's a very crowded hospital. It's very busy. You know, the stress is up and everything. Anyway, let's see. So they get to the decline the organ donor. Okay, Perry is seen by a doctor. That's Stephen Tobolowsky, who states that her arm is fractured and that he wants her to have a CAT scan in case she has a head injury. Joanne accompanies her to the scanning facility in the basement, while Ray falls asleep in the waiting area. Yeah, and Stephen Tobolowsky does a great job as the very congenial, very caring, compassionate doctor, and he sort of like, sets the little girl's mind at ease, and he says he has a beautiful name and all that kind of thing, and like, yeah, I just want to make sure, if she fell and everything. And there's that suspicion that, oh, she fell down and hurt her arm, did she? Was there some kind of, did she really fall? She walked into a door kind of thing. So now the father, Ray, is now on edge a little bit about any kind of insinuations about what might have happened. Anyway, so he watches his wife and his daughter get into the elevator and go down in the elevator to where purportedly the scanning area is. And he falls asleep in the waiting area. Ray awakens hours later and asks the hospital staff if he can see his wife and daughter. Oh, and by the way, this entire time Ray's got like blood on his head, and he's got a little cut there because he hit his head when he fell into the pit. So he's a little out of it as well. He wants to see his wife and daughter, but he is suddenly told they have no record of them. Most of the doctors have changed shift, and the only nurse still there says that Ray came in alone and was treated for a head wound. Ray becomes distressed, is restrained by security, and after given a sedative, is locked in a room. He then escapes and waves down 2 police officers who agree to investigate. Now, the things that Ray is seeing around the hospital and the question about organ donor during the insurance thing, it makes him suspicious that there's some illegal organ donor thing kind of happening. That's the vibe you're kind of getting. It's never said explicitly. It's just the little hints here and there that something untoward is going on. So he gets these 2 cops. Whoa. I think a garbage truck is driving by my apartment. Good gravy, you hear that? What the heck is that? Okay. Yeah, some heavy piece of equipment or something just drove by. All right, well, if you heard that, I apologize, but, live television. Anyway, so he gets these 2 cops, and he convinces them that something's up. Where's my daughter? Where's my wife? Where are they? They were in the hospital. Now they're gone. And so they start searching around the hospital. Part of the thing is that his little girl was wearing this yellow scarf. You actually see it in the advertising for the movie. He's holding this scarf. And this is the stuff that started to throw me off a little bit in my assumption about what was going on in the movie. Because he finds physical evidence that his daughter was actually there. There's the scarf, right? Like, why would the scarf be there? And it's got blood on it, which is probably his or hers, hard to tell. But either way, he's got a scarf. So I started thinking, okay, so is he having a delusion? Is he having half a delusion? What's going on here? Anyway, he and the cops search around the hospital. Further evidence is found that Ray's family never was at the hospital, and he is taken by the police and a hospital psychiatrist to the gas station. This is after they went through the hospital, and suddenly it occurs to them, hey, maybe we should check the security footage. And they go to the security room, and they start looking at the footage, and there's only Ray there. But conveniently, at the spots where his wife and daughter would show up, the video kind of glitches out for a second. So we, the audience, are still somewhat convinced that maybe something untoward is happening, right? Anyway, finally they decide to go to the gas station where all of this started and presumably try to find the gas station attendant, because they're trying to find someone who saw him with his daughter and his wife, because everybody at the hospital is not there, or a shift change. The cops don't know what's going on. And by now, the doctor that had seen his daughter has shown up. And he as well says, no, you came in here alone with a head injury. So now is he in on it? So they go back to the gas station. During the course of this, it is also found that Ray was a recovering alcoholic whose first wife, Abby, remember this is his second wife, Joanne, his first wife, Abby, died with their unborn child 8 years ago. Okay, and there's some indication that he was driving drunk and it's his fault, and he's got all this sort of regret, trauma, and grief about that. And so I'm thinking, so did the wife and daughter ever exist? Or was he just imagining like a pseudo stand-in wife and daughter for those that he lost in that car accident or something? Anyway, they go to the gas station, and in the construction pit they find a large blood stain, and then they attempt to arrest Ray on suspicion of him murdering his wife and daughter, because there was way too much blood there. It certainly didn't come out of him, and there's no body there. So what's going on? He then sees the dog. Like, his entire story is predicated on this dog having scared his daughter to fall into the pit. And so he sees the actual dog. He keeps telling about the dog, and there's no dog. And then suddenly there's a dog, and even the cops see it. So he knows that his story is true, to an extent. But anyway, he takes an officer's gun and locks everyone in the gas station before returning to the hospital. He reaches the basement after strangling a security guard to death and finds that Perry is about to have her organs harvested. And he goes into the surgery room, and there's all these bodies that are emptied out of their intestines, and there's this little girl laying on a table, and they're prepping her to operate on her. He drags Perry, the daughter, out of the operating theater along with a drugged Joanne. So he's got this wheelchair with his wife sitting there unconscious and his daughter in her lap. And as he's going along, a doctor tries to stop him, and he shoots the doctor. Okay, so far he's killed a security guard and shot a doctor in the leg. He didn't kill the doctor, as far as I know. As they drive away, so he loads his daughter and his wife into the car, right, into his same car, the car that he drove to the hospital with. They didn't take his car to the gas station. They drove him there in a police car. As they drive away, it is revealed that his family died in the pit. Way back at the beginning of the movie. Surprise, surprise. Perry, so when the little girl fell, she died on impact hitting the ground, right? Okay, and then when he woke up from having hit the ground himself, his wife is fighting with him, frantic over what's happening with their daughter, and he just kind of mindlessly shoves her, and she falls over, and her head gets impaled on a piece of rebar. Okay, so it wasn't like he was trying to kill her. It was more or less an accident that his wife died, but he still shoved her. She fell and, got her right through her head on a piece of rebar. And then what he did was he picked up his wife and he picked up his daughter and he carried them back to the car and he put them both in the trunk and put a blanket over them, and then he proceeded to drive off to the hospital. And all the while he's having this delusion where he's just taking his daughter to the hospital with a hurt arm. But he never had his daughter with him. His wife was never there. They were just corpses in the back of his car. But now, who did he take out of the hospital with him? Well, he took some random guy who's unconscious who was there for surgery, because what he imagined to be some organ harvesting operation was just the operating theater. So he has this innocent person, right? This innocent person who's unconscious in his car that he's pretending is both his wife and his daughter, some guy, and he's driving off and driving away. And that's pretty much where the movie ends, him driving away, and him still living in this little fantasy of saving his wife and his daughter. Okay, well, there's the movie, right? That's the entirety of the movie. There wasn't any real surprises to me. There was a couple of red herrings thrown in there, obviously, to try to throw me off the scent, but my suspicion from the first 5 minutes was exactly true. Whole thing's a dream. Now, having read the Wikipedia article and knowing now that apparently they're driving back from Thanksgiving and not going to Thanksgiving, my sequel idea is already ruined. But I'm going to give it to you anyway, because I think it's hilarious. So let's pretend, shall we, that the Wikipedia article is wrong, or my memory is correct, either way, and that they were on their way to Thanksgiving to see our hero's in-laws at Thanksgiving. So the first movie's named Fractured. Here would be my pitch in an alternate universe where I had the plot correct of the first movie of the second movie. So the second movie would not be in any way at all advertised as a sequel to this movie. Sort of like how, Split wasn't an advertised sequel to Unbreakable. This sequel will not be advertised as a sequel to Fractured. The movie title would be Togetherness. Okay? And once you find out it's a sequel to Fractured, that's kind of the joke. But anyway, it'd be called Togetherness. And it would be, for all intents and purposes, throughout the first act, your old-fashioned, hokey Thanksgiving family comedy drama. All right? Where Ray and Joanne and Perry show up at Grandma and Grandpa's house for Thanksgiving. And, we go through this whole routine of like, hey, how's it going? And it's kind of, almost Christmas vacation-y with some, goofy relatives and that kind of thing. And Ray comes in, and he's got his daughter and his wife with him, and they're all, like, talking and catching up and what's going on. And it's like, where's Joanne and where's Perry? Oh, they're out in the car. I'll go get them. Perry kind of hurt her arm on the way here, and Joanne was tired. She took a nap in the car. I'll get him. So you got, 15, 20 minutes of him sort of commiserating with the family and everything and talking about stuff and all that good stuff. And then he goes out and gets the wife and the kid, and they come in, and then, the festivities start to begin. Well, of course, what's happening in reality is that he's carried this he's carried his dead wife and his dead daughter into the house, And the family starts going nuts. But in his mind, they're celebrating, like, hey, how's it going? What's going on? And, he starts hugging his family members, except he's not hugging his family members. He's, strangling them to death and everything and all that fun stuff. And the sick guy, the guy that he brought out of the hospital as a physical representation of his dead daughter and wife, is still out in the car. Like, he was drugged up for surgery, and he's only slowly coming to, and he's very ill to begin with because he was there for surgery. So he's still an X factor in the whole thing. Anyway, so, it slowly throughout the course of the movie, as we move into the second act, things start to go a little awry as we start to see that something's not quite right. It goes from this hokey Thanksgiving kind of movie, family film, comedy drama thing, into something's wrong with Ray. Ray keeps saying things and the family keeps reacting in weird ways. And then the phone starts ringing. And one of the family members goes to pick it up and it's like, oh, it was a wrong number. And of course the phone keeps ringing every 10 or 15 minutes. And so slowly we figure out that now Ray is sitting at a Thanksgiving dinner table with each chair populated by the corpse of one of his family members that he's now murdered. And the phone ringing is the cops, because the sick guy eventually woke up and, dragged his way to an adjoining house to get attention. And now the cops are showing up, and they're calling into the house to try to find out what's going on, because the hospitals eventually figured out, that Ray got away, and they called the cops, and they tracked him down and found his family's house. And then it goes into this weird quasi-hostage crazy situation where Ray's there with the dead and or restrained or unconscious bodies of his family. Maybe they're not all dead. Maybe some of them are just, injured in such a way that they can't really fight back. And, eventually it comes in and he sees all the lights and everything, and he thinks it's like Christmas time, and the movie just kind of cuts to black as the cops come in to grab him. Yeah. That'd be the sequel. In rough terms, that would be the sequel. If I hadn't already gotten wrong, apparently, the plot point in the first movie. That's too bad. It would have been funny. Yeah, fractured and then togetherness. Yeah, I think that'd be great. Would have been great. But, anyway, yeah, that's the stream. It is a waste of, it's a wasting time on a Saturday or a Sunday kind of movie. Like I say, that first scene with the dog, the setup, the first 5 or 10 minutes of the movie, all by itself is pretty good. It's actually a really good setup. Because I had no notion of what this movie was about. I had an inkling by the title, but I had no notion until after that scene happened as to what was going on. But yeah, of everything else, that one scene is kind of worth watching, just because it really does very quickly build up tension, suspense, a sense of danger. I mean, it's really, really effective. Everything after that is kind of cat and mouse chess game, playing effectively a game against himself. And it ends on thankfully it doesn't end on a happy ending or everything's all wrapped up in a nice little bow kind of thing. It leaves it ambiguous as to what happens next, which is why it feels like a weird sequel could happen. So there's that. As far as the performances are concerned, everything's serviceable. Sam Worthington he's Sam Worthington. He's usually pretty good. Depends on the movie. Depends on the direction. He does an effective job being a unhinged individual, which he has some experience with, I think, in different movies. So yeah, there you go. Out of 5 stars, I give it 2. It's not terrible. It's not anything to write home about. But the ending it's one of those things. The ending is so ambiguous, and the setup for what's going on is so grim. I couldn't help but imagine, what happens next? Where does this guy go now? So, yeah. There you go. I don't know. That's the stream. That's the show. I'll take a look at some of the comments you guys put up real quick, in case anybody wants to say anything. Simon Willikins, this movie isn't available on Canadian Netflix. Yeah, I can't speak to the availability of it. There's always VPNs. It's always VPNs if you have one. Keeverdam, like the Wizard of Oz. Well, see, it wasn't entirely a dream. He was half imagining, and then there was real people involved. And it wasn't a happy dream. He wasn't like dreaming something fantastical or positive. He was actually having a nightmare. The whole thing was effectively a nightmare between, missing his daughter and thinking that his daughter was being kidnapped and all this and that kind of thing. So, but I mean, more or less, it was one big act of denial and avoidance of reality. That's basically it. That his daughter wasn't dead, his wife wasn't dead, he didn't have anything to do with their deaths. I mean, in his daughter's case, he didn't. That's the one saving grace of the character, is that once you find out the truth of things, the initiating events that lead up to him going bonkers were accidental. Like, his daughter falling was certainly not his fault. His wife dying was decidedly not intentional. It was just, that too was effectively an accident. But everything after that, him strangling the security officer and shooting the doctor, that's where everything kind of goes downhill for him. But in his mind, he's completely justified. Yeah, so there you go on that. The Undead Kaiser. Hey, Scribelight, did you see China is going to declare war on us either tomorrow or a week from now? I've heard such rumors, yes, because Nancy Pelosi went to Taiwan or something. I guess. Sure. I guess. I suppose I'll worry about it when it's official or something. I don't know. Chain 87, 2005. I despise Just a Dream plots. Yeah, it was... As soon as it happened, as soon as I knew what was going on, I was like, oh no, this is... I've seen this movie before. I've seen things like this before. Okay, well, I'll see it through. Because, I mean, really, that first scene with the dog sold me on maybe it'll be a really good iteration of this kind of story. Kiever Dam, not butthole, fractured. Yeah, exactly. No, it wasn't fractured butthole. It's true. It's true. Although the sequel, Togetherness, would have helped to do that. Cannibalistic Wizard. And in the end, all the relatives have a bullet in them because he finally broke. Well, either that or they're unconscious or tied up or something because he's convinced himself of whatever he's convinced himself of. Either way. Robert Pincus. If it leaves you wondering about the main character, isn't it a good thing? Yeah, I mean, like I say, the high points of the movie, scene with the dog, and the fact that it was an open-ended conclusion. It didn't give you a definitive what happens next. Which, obviously you might as well just say, oh, they ran out of things to write about. That could be. But I kind of like movies that take a downbeat or undefined end to a situation if it's fitting enough. And this one, it was fitting enough. Because since the character was effectively imagining the entire narrative, it then lends itself to the audience having to be forced to imagine the continuing narrative. And Bridget, I like the idea that the wife and child don't exist. I did too. I kind of like that better. It would make the whole scene with the dog and everything make less sense to imagine something that detailed and convoluted. Like, if he had shown up if the opening thing was him showing up at the hospital carrying his daughter in, and the lady that is his wife was the lady that died in the car accident years ago or something, and he was just having some kind of weird flashback or something like that, then that might do it. The other thing that kind of made me think the whole thing was a dream is that at the very beginning, the opening shot of the movie is kind of shining like it's following the car from like a helicopter shot over as it drives along the road. The opening shot zooms in kind of on the car, and the first thing that we see is the husband yelling or looking angry because the two of them, he and his wife, are having an argument. But we don't see anybody else in the car. It's almost like the opening shot is to tell us, the viewers, as we're going into his perspective, that he's alone in the car yelling at himself. That's what I kind of thought at first. I thought that everything was being imagined. Not the case, apparently. So, yeah, anyway. There's my review and a sequel that doesn't work now, but that was it. That's the stream. That's the show. I got impulsive, and on impulse, sometimes I do things. Programming note, Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on this channel will be another episode of TED Excellence. This time joining me will be Blind Press as the two of us look at a TEDx that she had recommended to her regarding questionable child labor practices. Not my usual fare, but it's something that Blind Press is very passionate about, the subject matter, and I'm curious to find out what it's about. So join us for that, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on Thursday. And then on Sunday, as usual thing, at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern, the Sunday stream, where I may do a part 2 to the part 1 I did this past Sunday. We'll see. And then a long-distance programming note, but something I'm very excited for, is my new project, a true crime panel discussion show called Living on Borrowed Crime. I have it set up to go on August 28th at 10 a.m. Pacific time. That's a Sunday, August 28th, 10 a.m. Pacific time. Joining me for that first inaugural episode will be In Human Form, All Fuzzed Out, and Stay Awake. All three of them being true crime content creators on YouTube. And I'm hoping this turns into a regular thing where I can bring in all types of different true crime creators over time and have some interesting conversations about the genre and their passion for the subject matter. But that all being said, guys, thank you for joining me and indulging me in this strange little stream. I hope you all have a good rest of your Tuesday. That's what it is, right? Tuesday, yes. And I hope you have a good rest of your week. I hope you're all safe and well. If you are not well, please get well soon, and I will see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.